It is the middle of the night, 40,000 years ago, and you are awake because something outside the fire is breathing. You cannot see it. You can only hear it, slow and heavy, just past the edge of the light. Your hand tightens around a sharpened stick that suddenly feels like nothing at all. You do not move. You barely breathe. You just listen, and you wait to find out whether the sound is coming closer or going away. For most of our story, this was normal. Your ancestors slept in a ring around the fire, backs in, eyes out every single night, because the dark was full of things that wanted to eat them. Someone always stayed awake. Someone always kept the flames fed, not for warmth, though it was cold. They did it because the moment the fire died, the ring of safety died with it, and whatever was waiting out there would finally come in. We like to picture early humans at the top of the food chain, striding across the plains with spears, chasing down mammoths, kings of everything they could see. But for hundreds of thousands of years, that picture is wrong. We were small, soft, and hunted in a world built for giants. We were not the story's hero yet. We were one of the smaller, more nervous animals in it, and we survived by being afraid at exactly the right moments. So, what was actually out there in the dark, waiting for the fire to die? Who hunted us? To understand what hunted us, you have to forget the world you know. 40,000 years ago, the planet was colder, wider, and far more dangerous. Ice sheets pressed down from the north, and the open land below them was not empty. It was crowded with animals so large that our modern predators would look like pets beside them. This was the age of giants, and almost every one of them was better armed than you. Cave lions heavier than any tiger alive today, prowling in pride through the cold. Hyenas the size of a small bear, with jaws that could split a leg bone like a dry twig. Bears that stood taller than a doorway when they rose onto their back legs, tall enough to look down at you the way you look down at a dog. Wolves that hunted in packs across the snow, tireless, patient, coordinated. And in the middle of all of it stood you. No claws, no fangs, no fur to survive the cold, no armor. A slow, upright animal that could not climb fast, could not run far, and worst of all, could not see in the dark. On paper, you should not have made it. Line your ancestors up next to any one of these animals, and it is not close. You were not the hunter in this world. For a very long time, you were meat that happened to be clever, and the only real question each night was whether clever would be enough. Start with the one that ruled the night, the cave lion. Forget the lion you picture lying in the sun on a golden plain. This was something else. Bigger, heavier, built thick for the cold, and it hunted when the light was gone, in exactly the hours when your eyes turned useless and its did not. Think about what that means. In daylight, a group of humans with spears and fire could stand their ground, could even drive a lion off a kill and steal the meat. But at night, the whole equation flipped. At night, the lion could see you, and you could not see it. To a cave lion, a sleeping human was slow, soft, and easy. The kind of meal that does not even understand it is being hunted until the weight is already on its chest. We are not guessing about this. We know because the bones remember. In old dens and cave floors, archaeologists have found human remains marked by big cat teeth, chewed and cracked the same way any prey animal would be. Our ancestors were not just neighbors to these cats, sharing a landscape at a polite distance. Sometimes they were dinner. Somewhere out there, on some forgotten night, a person just like you lay down by a fire that burned too low and never got up. Then there were the hyenas, and you need to forget everything cartoons ever taught you about them. The cave hyena was not a cowardly scavenger laughing on the edges. It was massive, powerful, and it hunted in clans, and it did something worse than simply kill you. It dragged what it caught back into deep, dark dens and crushed the bones for the rich marrow locked inside. Nothing was wasted, nothing was left. We know this in horrifying detail because those ancient dens have been dug up, and they are full of gnawed bone, snapped and splintered and stacked in the dark. And mixed in among the horses and the deer and the young mammoths, there are human bones too, broken open the exact same way, for the exact same reason. Sit with that. To a cave hyena, we were not special. We were not the clever apes destined to build cities and songs and spacecraft. We were just another animal that broke open the same way everything else did, another set of bones to carry home in the dark. And then there was the quietest hunter of all, and in some ways, the worst. The leopard. A lion charges. A hyena runs you down in the open. But a leopard does not announce itself at all. It waits above you, draped in the branches of a tree, or crouched in the black mouth of a cave. Perfectly still, perfectly silent, and it simply drops. There is a reason our deepest instincts still flinch at movement above our heads. One of the most famous early human skulls ever found belonged to a child, and punched into the back of that small skull are two neat, round holes. For years, no one was sure what made them. Then someone lined them up against the lower fangs of a leopard, and they matched exactly. That child was carried up into a tree and eaten. It never saw what was coming. Almost none of them did. That is the entire point of an ambush. And there was the problem of shelter, which is really the problem of the bear. When the cold came down hard, a cave was the difference between living and freezing. A pocket of stillness out of the wind where a family could survive the worst of the night. But your ancestors were not the only ones who understood the value of a cave. Bears understood it too. The cave bear was enormous, far larger than the brown bears we know, and it wanted the same dry, sheltered dark that you did. So imagine crawling into a cave in the last light of a freezing evening, exhausted, desperate to get your children out of the wind, and hearing, from somewhere deep in the black at the back, something very large begin to move. There was no good choice. Stay in the wind and freeze, or share the dark with a thing that could crush your skull with a single swing of its paw. This was not a rare nightmare. This was a housing negotiation your ancestors had, over and over, with an animal that did not negotiate. And the hunters that scared us most were not always the biggest. They were the ones that worked together. A single wolf is a manageable problem. A pack of them, spread out across the snow, moving as one mind, cutting off your escape before you even know you are being herded, is something else entirely. Pack hunters do not need to be stronger than you. They need to be patient and coordinated and willing to wait until you are tired or alone or slowed by an injury or a child you will not leave behind. They test you. They follow at a distance for hours, reading you, waiting for the moment the group makes a mistake. Against claws, you can build a fire. Against a pack that simply refuses to leave, that waits you out night after night, a fire is only the beginning of an answer. How do we even know all of this? It is a fair question, because no one was writing any of it down. We know it the way you know a story from the marks it leaves behind. We know it from human bones with the puncture spacing of a big cat's jaws. From skulls with two clean holes that match a leopard's fangs. From hyena dens packed with cracked and gnawed remains, ours mixed in with everything else on the menu. From cut marks and bite marks layered on the same bones, telling us that sometimes we ate the predator and sometimes the predator ate us, and it went both ways for a very long time. The ground itself is a record of who ate whom, and for most of our history, we are not only listed among the hunters, we are listed among the eaten. By now you might be building a list in your mind. Lions in the night, hyenas in the dens, leopards in the trees, bears at the cave mouth, wolves on the snow. But here is the thing that should really keep you awake, the predator we almost never name. The most dangerous hunter of the Ice Age was not any single animal at all. It was the dark itself. Think about how it actually felt. When the fire burned low and the last red light shrank down into the coals, you did not just lose comfort. You lost your single most important sense. Your eyes, the thing you trusted most in daylight, went blind. And in that same moment, every animal out there gained the advantage, because they were built for exactly this. And you were not. You could not see what was circling the cave. You could only lie there and listen, and try to read the darkness by sound alone. A snapped branch, a shift of weight, breathing that was there a moment ago and now, somehow, was not. The dark did not need claws. The dark simply took away the one thing that kept you alive, and then it waited. and it was worst for the ones who could least defend themselves. Picture a specific night, not a general one. A mother lies against the cave wall with a newborn pressed to her chest, and the baby will not stop crying, and every cry is a sound that carries out into the dark where things are listening. She cannot silence it. She can only hold it closer and stare into the black and pray the fire holds. Picture an old man whose legs no longer move the way they did, who knows quietly that if the group ever has to run, he is the one the pack will take, and that this is the price of growing old in a world like this. Picture a child who wanders 10 steps too far from the light to see something glinting and is simply gone. No scream, no struggle, just an empty space where a person used to be. These were not rare tragedies. They were the ordinary arithmetic of survival, the reason our ancestors clung so fiercely to the young and the old. Because the dark was always doing its patient subtraction, and everyone knew it. So how did we survive a world this clearly built to eat us? How does the soft, clawless, night-blind animal end up here, 40,000 years later, safe in a warm room, telling the story? Not with strength. Let us be honest about that. We never won the fight on strength. Any lion, any bear, any hyena would end you one-on-one, and that never really changed. We survived by doing the one thing none of those giants could do. We stayed together, and we kept the fire alive. Fire was not comfort. Fire was a wall. It pushed the dark back just far enough to give us a room inside the night, a circle the giants would not cross. A cave lion that would happily take a lone sleeper in the black would think twice about a ring of upright creatures standing behind a line of flame. Fire turned a soft, defenseless animal into something with a border, something that could say, this far and no further. For the first time, the night had an edge that belonged to us. And around that fire, we did something else no predator on Earth could match. We talked. We warned each other. We remembered. We passed knowledge from the old to the young in words, so that a child who had never seen a cave lion already knew its sound, already knew to freeze, already knew which valley the hyenas denned in, and which season the bears woke hungry, and which noise in the dark meant run, right now, do not think. Every person who survived a close call turned that terror into a story, and every story made the next generation a little harder to kill. That is the real weapon. The claws and the fangs we were never born with, we built. Not out of bone, but out of memory, out of language, out of each other. One human alone in that ancient dark was just meat. But a group of humans around a fire, sharing everything they knew, was something the Ice Age had never seen before, and had no answer for. We did not out-muscle the giants. We out-remembered them. And this weapon did something the giants never could. It grew. A lion is born knowing everything a lion will ever know, and it dies knowing exactly the same. But a human born into that ancient dark inherited the memory of everyone who came before. The knowledge stacked up, generation on generation, until a group of people carried a map of their whole world inside their heads. They knew where the predators denned and when they hunted. They knew to choose a camp with a wall at their backs, a cliff, or a river that meant nothing could circle behind them in the night. They learned to read tracks in the mud and tell how fresh they were, to know a cave lion had passed this way at dawn and might still be near. They learned to dig pits, to set traps, to drive a dangerous animal off a cliff using nothing but noise and fire, and the fact that there were more of them than of it. None of that lived in any single person. It lived in the group, and it was passed down in words, and it made each generation a little less like prey. That is why the fire mattered so much more than warmth. The fire was where the knowledge was kept. It was the place the stories were told, the place the young sat and listened to the old describe a danger they had not yet met, so that when they finally met it, they already knew what to do. Kill one human and you lose one person, but you cannot kill a story that has already been told to 20 others around a fire. That is the thing the giants could never fight. Not our strength, not our speed, but the strange human refusal to let hard-won knowledge die with the person who earned it. That is the real reason you exist. Not because your ancestors were the strongest thing in the dark. They were not even close. You exist because they were the only thing in the dark that refused to face it alone. Every night they survived was a night they survived together. So here is something to carry with you. The next time you are lying in bed in a locked house, warm and safe, with a light you can turn on with a single finger, stop for just a moment and remember what that light really is. It is the same fire. It is the same instinct that made someone 40,000 years ago sit up in the dark and feed the flames so the rest of the group could sleep. That light in your room is the far end of an unbroken line, a fire that has been kept burning, hand to hand, night after night, for 2,000 generations. It is the reason the breathing in the dark finally moved away. It is the reason it never came back. We were prey once. We remember it in our bones, in the way we still fear the dark, in the way we still feel watched when the light goes out. But we are here, and the giants are gone, and the fire is still burning. If this made you see that ancient night a little differently, subscribe and stay close to the fire. There is a whole lost world of giants still out there, waiting in the dark, and we are only just beginning to remember it.